Now, Polo G, can we talk about how much this guy has actually leveled up in 2020? Just for a second, okay? Can we do that? Since I dropped that Lil Baby 2020 video yesterday, I thought I'd also take a look at Polo's 2020 because there are a couple things I for sure want to bring up. So yeah. Let's talk about it. Now, Polo G has obviously elevated like crazy ever since he got in the game. This is one of those rappers who I think had the same "this guy's definitely gonna take off" effect on everyone when they heard his music for the first time. Like I've said in the past, my introduction to his music was Finer Things, like a lot of other people. After Finer Things though, he followed that up with Hollywood, and then after that came We Pop Out at Your Party, okay, featuring Lil TJ, which was 1000% the song that actually helped him properly blow up. Around 2 weeks after that, that's when Battle Cry came out, and ever since then, things have just been going up and up and up for him. Polo started off on a very strong note, man. I think all those consistently good and impactful records he dropped back to back set himself up real good. He simply capitalized very well on all those initial eyes he had on him. He had the benefit of being a new artist in the genre who on top of that had a little bit of skin in the game because he didn't come empty-handed leading into Finer Things. He did have a little buzz going for himself with the help of, the drill shit. He of course then did 180, reinvented himself and introduced himself to the industry as a melody dominant artist, leading into a little bit later in 2019 though. That's when the Deep Wounds music video dropped, and then almost 3 weeks after that, that's when Die Legend dropped, aka his introduction project. He had a lot of momentum going into this project, and I think kind of observing how he decided to approach this release is a great example of the right way to do things as a new artist in the industry. One thing he did really well with Die Legend is really just taking his time with it. He patiently took his time with his introduction project, made sure he had a track record of strong singles behind its name, some really solid visuals that complemented the songs. Everything he dropped starting from Finer Things all the way to Die Legend had a very consistent theme in terms of sound. So many things he made sure to have in place before he actually jumped in the water, so to speak. The next chapter of the story was obviously the GOAT. Polo G definitely made sure he delivered on this one. If I had to pick one really good thing, one exceptional thing about this album, and one thing I don't like, what would those two be? The best thing about this project is definitely how well Polo G showcased the good aspects of him as a rapper and managed to compress that into one project that sounds good, that hits hard, that has some emotional vulnerable pain but isn't too sappy but also isn't too rough in terms of sound. And then one thing I don't like, I would say for sure the lack of flexibility, I guess you could say, of Polo G as a rapper. Personally, I think he has a lot of untapped potential inside of him he still hasn't brought to the surface just yet, even though he made sure to flex, no pun intended, a lot of the great qualities of himself as an artist on the GOAT. Overall, I'd say that he was definitely playing it safe. A lot of people have mentioned the flow thing. The Polo G has the same flow comments, and I do agree with that to some extent. It's definitely not on the extreme side at all though. I think he's just found a really successful formula that works very early on. The flow is for sure a part of the equation here, but he's sticking to that because that's what he knows best. That's kind of the GOAT summarized. He gives you the exact product you signed up for, but if you're not that bought into his sound, it might get old for you, which for me personally it doesn't, because I am very much bought into what he has to offer. A lot of people also forget the fact that Polo G aside, all these young guys are super early in the process. Polo G to me seems like the kind of rapper who's gonna figure it out because he just has an overload of hunger inside of him. At the end of the day, one of the things that does set him apart from a lot of other rappers in his lane is his desire to keep on grinding. Definitely reminds me a lot of Lil Baby's work ethic. Lil Baby is simply staying ahead of the curve because he's putting in so much into what he's doing. Apart from the success in his own music though, he for example started his own label, Capital Records. He signed his first artist back in September, which was Scory, who's an artist out of New York. Scory has this really dope song called Moods that dropped in 2020 that's still going crazy. He's also had a couple really notable verses as well. Three-Headed Goat is at the top of that list. His verse on The Code by King Von, R.I.P. to Von, is another one. And then that verse on Book Bag 2.0 by Big K BZ, that verse was hard as hell. Stating the obvious, I think Polo G is headed in a very good direction, man. There's a lot of force, a lot of impact, a lot of power behind everything he's doing. Simply put, man, he's moving with a purpose, and that's something that kind of goes beyond just the music. There's some rappers who you can look at and instantly with conviction say, I know that this artist is for sure gonna stay in the game and actually be relevant for a long time, and he's one of them. With time, I'm sure we're gonna see him stepping outside of his comfort zone, diversifying his approach to how he makes his music. No matter the kind of level he reaches though, I think one of the consistent aspects of his music that's gonna stick with him is the passion aspect. That's what makes Polo G great in my opinion. It's gonna be interesting interesting to see how he approaches that next release though. Dial Legend was good, the GOAT was great. Will he be able to give us something that's gonna surpass that? Like they say, only time will tell. But yeah, Polo G obviously had an amazing 2020. What do you think is next for him though? Definitely let me know in the comment section below and let's have a discussion about this.